What are your favorite sports teams?
Sports teams? The San Francisco Giants. Only because I hear that they're thinking of having a StanLee Day. I thought that they were a basketball team, but somebody told me that. I'm only kidding. I'm not as big a sports fan as I used to be. And I'll tell you, that reminds me of another story. Do you know how you can have a whole conversation with somebody without saying anything? When I was younger and lived in New York, there was a time when I was just too busy. I stopped following sports. I didn't know what was going on. And I would take a cab to go somewhere, a taxi. And the taxi driver would say something to me like, "Hey, what do you think of the Yanks?" So I'd say, "Man, isn't that something?" And he'd say, "And how about Joe DiMaggio?" I'd say, "Hey, you can say that again." We'd have a whole taxi ride with him saying things and me giving non-answers. And when I got out of the cab, he'd say, "Oh, I enjoyed talking to you." He thought I was, and I realized it's possible. There are so many expressions that are meaningless that you can use in conversation that you can talk to people all day without saying anything. And which is another subject. Maybe I'll write a book about it soon.
Thank you.
Excelsior, this is amazing. I have a two-part question. Is Thanos going to make a cameo in Star Wars Episode 7?
Thanos going to make a cameo in Star Wars Episode 7? The character's name?
Thanos.
Thanos. Oh, Thanos.
Probably. That's one way to get off the hook.
And if you could portray any character from one of the many Marvel movies, who would you pick to play? Yourself, personally, you.
If you could be any one of the characters in one of the movies, who would you want to be in one of the movies as a character?
Whoever gets the girl.
Okay, that's a good enough. So Tony Stark.
I never really thought about that. Obviously, I would like to be Tony Stark. He's a little too old, though. We've
got time for 2 more questions. Please.
First off, Mr. Lee, I just want to say, when I was little, your comics actually is what made me learn how to read. So thank you for that. But actually, my question is, with you're basically one of the only people in the comic book industry who is almost as recognizable as his own characters. And I'm just kind of thinking, in your career, what's really pushed you to make your presence well known with your characters and in the movies and all the conventions and all that?
All right, summarize it in 2 words.
Next. No, I'm kidding. You're probably one of the only artists who's as recognizable as any of your characters. Has it been anything that's sort of pushed that or driven that, or has it just happened?
No, the fact that I'm so incredibly good looking that people... I think for some reason I've gotten a lot of publicity, and if ever anybody wanted to do an interview about Marvel, somehow they would call me. So my face was in articles all over with pictures of me, and there was nobody else really that they ever called. It was always me. I was the voice of Marvel. So I guess I became the face of Marvel. And now I'm the old man of Marvel, but I'm still hanging around. What was the question again? Sometimes one forgets.
No, that's basically it. Yeah. All right, this is the last question of the day.
Have these people all spent the whole few days before now dreaming of questions? I mean, are these things
I have
in your
for
life
years.
you've been wanting to know? What was that? I heard somebody tell us.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I have for years been wanting to ask this question.
For years he's been wanting to ask you this question.
Now, which question is that?
And you were into the advertising of Marvel Comics, right? In the 1960s?
I was...
What advertising Marvel Comics?
Right.
In the 60s, yeah.
In 1962, there was an episode of Naked City, a New York cop drama. And in the newsstand scene, there's Amazing Fantasy number 15 and Journey into Mystery 83 hanging on a wire, blowing in the wind in this episode. Now, I just wondered if that was advertisement on your part, or Marvel's part, or if that was just by sheer accident.
There was something about Naked City, which was...
It was a TV show that you were on.
Yeah.
Back in '62, there was a newsstand, and there happened to be 2 comic books swaying in the... Was that done on purpose, or was that just by happenstance?
It was done on purpose. Everything on television,
because they were
movies, is done on purpose.
They were 2 complete unknown characters at that point, so that was an advertisement thing.
So those were 2 complete unknown characters at that point.
Well, we wanted them to be known, so we had them swinging in the wind.
Well, thank you, Stan, for answering that
Actually,
question.
I gotta tell you, I'm guessing at that. I don't remember that scene or that show.
Oh, 1962.
I remember there was the story, Naked City, but I don't even remember what it was, what the series was.
Okay, well, thank you, Stan, for putting up with all this crap.
Thank you. Thank you for putting up with my idiotic answer. He says we gotta go now. We're done. If I want to say any last
Sorry, he's
words.
got a plane to catch. I'm sorry.
I don't want to say any last words, but I'll say some words. You people are the greatest audience. Vancouver is the greatest city. I used to come here when we were filming things for television shows. This is the first time I've come for a convention, and you guys are great. I never had a better time, and I thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you.